Uwe, Tobela, Lesedi Khanya, Kwaziwayi, Muribwanji, Jambo, Kedu, Kilode. I don't know if I've left anyone out, but thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate it. I wanted us to look at conscious parenting, right? Conscious parenting, what are we talking about? Conscious parenting is when you parent your children with an awareness of several things. Number one is the awareness that your children are actually spirits having a human experience just like you. That's very important. So recognizing that they are spirit first before they are human, right? Number two is recognizing that your children chose to reincarnate in you, right? They made a choice while still in the spirit realm that they were going to incarnate as your child. That's the second. The third to remember is because they chose you, there are certain aspects of you, of your soul, that can guide them in the way that they should go so that they can fulfill their purpose. So there are aspects in you that they chose and saw as spirit that you can guide them and support them in fulfilling their purpose. In other words, they are part of your soul group. Number three, note that I said they are reincarnates, meaning to say it is possible that although they appear to you as little babies and toddlers and little children, they may spiritually be older than you. Because in African spirituality, we know that our ancestors come back, right? So that is conscious parenting. It is also important to be aware as you parent that your children are there to teach you certain things. Your children are there to support you in fulfilling your purpose. And this is an agreement that was made in the spiritual realm. Does this make sense? Now, bearing those things in mind will dictate how you treat your children, how you raise your children. Several things to keep in mind is you, when you're raising your children, have to let go of your own knowing and to let go of your ego. In other words, if this is a spirit that is reincarnated, even though this spirit is in a small body, it means that this spirit came into the world with its own knowing. So you cannot then impose your knowing onto this spirit. What do I mean? Letting go of ego means you understand that you are a guide. You understand that your children are not your property. Your children don't belong to you. You were used as a portal to bring this spirit into this incarnation so that it could fulfill its purpose. Therefore, when you suspend your ego and you guide and allow that spirit to fully express itself, you are not standing in the way of that spirit walking its path and fulfilling its purpose. And number two, you are not hindering it by projecting your own experiences onto this spirit. These things are very important, guys, because by the time many of us are having our children, we've already been through all sorts of things ourselves, many of which we are not healed from. the awareness that you yourself have issues and wounds that you need to take care of is important, because otherwise you will project onto these pure souls that come into this world to fulfill their purpose your own baggage. So what is the issue? The problem with us bakwaNtu is that we don't have a framework, as we don't with intimate partner relationships. We no longer have a proper framework of what it is to raise children ngesintu. And many of us believe that we are raising our children ngesintu, but if you're honest and you look at what this isintu looks like, it is an adulteration of what we were because of colonization. It goes back to that issue of us have been colonized, enslaved, and therefore any reference we have of isintu is coming 3 or 4 generations back. Sometimes not even that. Sometimes we're only in full awareness of isintu as it was demonstrated to us by our parents and maybe our grandparents and the greater family. We fail to realize that that isintu they are projecting onto you and that they raised you in is actually distorted. Now, so you say, okay, so then what frame of reference do we have? The frame of reference that we have is within us. And we have teachings from pre-colonial times as to how children were raised. And the main thing that was understood in raising children back then, pre-colonial, was understanding that a new spirit, a spirit had been born, that this was an incarnation of somebody who'd been there before, an ancestor. So I say we need to be conscious of this because the lifestyles we live, the homes that we live in, the society that we live in was constructed for us to actually forget who we are. So if you as a parent don't really know who you are, how are you going to raise this spirit? How are you going to raise this spirit? Right? One of the things that I know and I've researched on, and I know a lot of parents are going to have a hard time with this one. bakwaNtu parents, you don't hit children. You heard me. And a lot of you have already done it. So it's like, finished. The damage has been done. No. As long as there's life, there's hope. But you don't hit children. Why? Because the hitting of children is actually a colonial thing. And if you look in the Bible, it's got all sorts of references. Oh, spare the rod, spoil the child. In nonsense, because umlungu takes anything that they perceive as weaker than themselves as something to be controlled. Umlungu sees anything that is in their perception. Remember, umlungu doesn't always look at the spiritual dimensions or aspects of things. And that book is not spiritual, right? That political tool. So spare the rod, spoil the child was so that people, nina bakwaNtu, would hit your children in preparation for the system in which they were going into, where they just had to be obedient slaves who don't question, who don't fight, who don't rebel, who are not creative, because creativity is not wanted. You were preparing them for the place called school. That education system where they are now going to be properly panel beated to become, at the end of it, a slave to a system that doesn't serve us, has never served us, and will never serve us. So you, when you are hitting your children, Ask yourself, most times you're hitting your children because they are exhibiting behaviors that you perceive as being out of control. So you want them to stop whatever it is they're doing. You are in the belief that hitting a child will help them to conform. The world doesn't need conformists, particularly because you're asking or you are training them into conforming to a system that does not serve them. You are creating good slaves. We were trained that way. My mom used to smack. She used to send you outside to get your own switch. After you did something that she perceived was wrong. And don't get me wrong, kids are naughty. But that's kids, children. And you see, with the languaging, we say children are naughty. That's a negative. But most of the times, these young spirits are here and they are inquisitive. They want to explore. They want to ask a billion questions. And what do? We beat them into silence. When you do that to a child, there's something that happens in their brain chemistry. It gets rewired so differently. So already they are no longer a manifestation of what they are in the spirit, because in this physical form, you are doing things to mold them, but you're molding them into something that they're not. Your job as a parent is to guide. Your job as a parent is to create boundaries. Safe boundaries around certain behaviors. What that means is you yourself have to know your values. After all, this spirit chose to incarnate back into that family, that lineage through you, because there are certain things that it saw or sees that will assist it on its journey. So what does guidance look like? Guidance looks like creating boundaries around certain aspects and certain issues. Many of you by now probably have rebellious teenagers you don't know what to do with. So you're compounding all the mistakes you made during their infanthood and their toddlerhood, and now you're compounding them. Now you've got this rebellious teenager you don't know what to do with. I put it to you that if you were to switch up your responses and your reactions to what they do, you would shock them into stillness like, hey, bo, I thought I was going to get beaten up for this. She didn't yell, or he didn't yell. He didn't take off his belt. What is happening? So it's like there is a circuit breaker that needs to happen even in the behavior of your teenagers. And it's going to come from you. So if you are the circuit breaker and you break the circuit in your usual reactions and responses to their behaviors now that they're older, you put in something, you cause them to pause, you cause yourself to pause and reevaluate. Somebody says my teen moved out. And that is what we're trying to prevent. We're trying to prevent these young spirits who are incarnate in human form, who still don't fully remember, who don't remember who they really are, from leaving the safety of home. But the question is, you have to ask yourself, did this young spirit feel safe at home? Were conditions in the home conducive to this young spirit wanting to even be in the home? It's very important. And I think what needs to happen too as parents, and we go back to this whole issue of your own internal work and personal healing. Because a lot of us are wounded through how we were parented. And I know there are a lot of people who say, well, you know, atina sashaywa, sakula shaywa, and bekukuti sinjani. Unjani how? So you went to school, you conformed. You got a job, you conformed. You pay bills, you conformed. Now you think you're okay. Are you really okay? Because if you had been allowed to fully express your soul, if your soul had been allowed full expression, what could you or would you have become? We are trying to break generational trauma. Because as long as we keep doing things in the name of, I'm fine because that was done to me when I was younger, we are not going to break this generational trauma. And actually what we're doing is we are raising a bunch of distorted humans, many of whom will go to their grave without fully knowing or understanding what their purpose on this planet was. So as a parent, you need to become conscious of this. As a parent, you cannot be the parent who wants to live vicariously through your children. What do I mean? You cannot be the parent who wants to control and manipulate your child into, say, going into a career that they're not even interested in. I've had consultations with mothers who are like, oh, this thing of his, he wants to pursue music. And I'm like, good. And just like, no, but you know, there's just so much competition out there. How can we, like, how music is not going to pay the bills? And the question I always ask them is, if bills were not an issue, would you allow your child to pursue their passion? And you'll hear a lot of people saying, yes, absolutely. So this is why in spirituality, no matter what your material circumstances are right now, you cannot limit or put limits and barriers to the development of this spirit that came here to fulfill its purpose. Just because you are allowing bread and butter issues to control you. And then you project it out onto your child. There are many parents who failed at finding their purpose. And now you look to your children to be your providers. You look to your children. That's why you're like, I've invested in so much in school. I've invested so much in this. I've invested on a material level. Yes. But that spirit is a tormented soul if you are investing and pushing this poor soul towards something that it knows this is not where it's supposed to go. They become teenagers. This is that time of reckoning, and many of them, especially now, because they are asking these questions younger and younger. What is the meaning of life? Why am I here? So if they have the anxiety, and many of you have kids who suffer from anxiety because literally they are doing something that their spirit knows they shouldn't be doing. There are kids who are rebelling now just as a way to get out, right? They see themselves being channeled a certain way, and the only way they see to be able to get out of this path that isn't theirs and their soul knows is to rebel. Then they get punished, they get beaten for the rebelliousness because you're trying to get them to conform. They are saying, and then they run away from home. Now what? Even if your child says, I'm no longer going to school. I don't want to go to school. I don't want to go to college. Don't torture them into forcing them into that space. Because once you do that, then you have the potential and you run the risk of them running away. Number one, they didn't go to school. Now they've run away from home. Now what have you done? I'd rather have a child who sits at home while they try to figure themselves out, and I see them daily and I know they are safe, than one who I've tried to force to do things and it just gets too much. The pressure is too much that they exit. They run away. Now you failed in your job as a steward. You can't blame the kid. The kid needed a way out. And for those who are saying that the kids have run away from home, I would beg you, please look for your children. Look for your children and do whatever it takes to bring them into the safety of home. It is not safe out there. And that's literally why I'm doing this live. Because so many messages are coming through about the safety of children, securing your children, who I've told you are not yours. But they are your responsibility. Because when you decided to do whatever it is you did that produces children, that spirit saw this happening and thought, they're here. That's why you hear a lot of children saying, I didn't ask to be born. Because the ultimate decision to allow a spirit to come into this world was yours. If you weren't doing what you were doing, they would have stayed where they were. Or they would have found someone else. Okay? So please, conscious parenting is important now more than ever. You rather have a child who's in the house. You go to work or you go wherever you're going, but you come back and he or she is there to greet you. Even if they are moody, they are trying to remember. It's frustrating for them to try to remember who they are. Why am I here? What is my purpose? What is the meaning of life? They are battling with all these questions. And when you punish them, you close off channels of communication. Or when you come into the house and you are irritated and upset by the fact that you've got this teenager who's eating you out of house and home, who sits on your couch all day watching TV. And so the first things that come out of your mouth are the most hurtful ones. Ufuna yephi umntwana? Where do you want this child to go? There are those of you who like, you're going to school or you're going to do this, otherwise you're out of my house. Well, then they'll say, okay, fine, I'm out of your house. There can be no winners in that situation, please. There are no winners when your child runs away from home because you've said, hamba ke, hamba, kuphi. You're the one who brought them into this world. So where are they supposed to go? Where? As a parent, you have the responsibility of controlling your emotions. And most of us cannot control our emotions because we are unhealed. And we look at our children as our possessions. We demand respect from our children. Meanwhile, we don't respect them. Baba Credo said this all the time. Ingane ayishaywa, ingane iyahlonishwa, ngoba ngumuntu omdala. He said it on videos. He said it in his books. We all know where this pathology came from and started. Why or another, the way we live our lives is not normal. In these small little houses, we're all contained. There's no land. There's no nature for the most part. You're lucky if you have a tree here. You're lucky if you have a few flowers there. That's about it. The rest of it is just this concrete jungle. And we are people of nature. So it's messing all of us up. However, we can still parent consciously. somebody's saying, the problem is they don't know what they want. I'm 14, I'm still figuring me out. And that is what we're trying to prevent, is that you end up 40 years old and still trying to figure out who you are. We must be the generation that does this hard work and then assists our children in figuring out who they are sooner. But that's not going to happen if you are still trying to control your kids as though they were your possessions and your property. Many of us are not getting the respect that we want from our children because fundamentally we don't respect them. Now, remember, children, listen, we're talking about spirits here. Some of these spirits have been around the block longer than you have. You'd be surprised. Some of these spirits were your mother or your grandmother in a former life who has now come as your child. I've seen this. It's pretty amazing when you see it happening in reality. When you see all the signs that this one, that's your mom, or that's your grandma. So when you simply stay in the 3D of seeing this dense matter, right, this dense representation of a spirit, and you see it, and you see a little, yes, when they're little, of course they are dependent on you. They're dependent on you probably your whole life once you've had a child. But those initial stages are critical. You don't teach your child how to be by belittling them, by beating them, by insulting them, by invalidating their feelings. When you do that, you're causing such a deep wounding, and that is the wounding that is going to prevent them from aligning with their life purpose sooner rather than later. Remember, when you are a spirit coming into this world, you go through a process of forgetting that which you came here for. And so you need not someone to tell you what you came here for, because no one can tell anyone that. You can't tell your child what they came here for. What you can do, though, is guide them in ways in which they can discover, little by little, what they came here for. And what they came here for, I'm so thankful for this, is usually in alignment with their natural gifts and talents. So why would you prevent your child who at the age of 4 or 5, you can already see this child can paint, and that's all they want to do. And then you're going to tell them you're going to be a doctor. But their gift and their purpose was to bring beauty and healing into this world through painting. Do you see now how when you take them off their path like that, how you can torture and torment their spirit? You put school books in front of them. They are distracted. They don't care. You're screaming at them, do your homework. And yes, unfortunately, we live in this system, but you don't have to scream at them. Help them get through this nonsense that they need to get through so that they can pull out their sketchbook and sit and draw for hours. That is that spirit giving itself full expression. And you'll see how joyful they become. So please, can we try and do conscious parenting? And can we also work on our own issues so that we're not bleeding on these souls that didn't hurt us? They didn't hurt you. Matter of fact, they honored you by coming through you. And what you want from your children is not fear, but respect. And that is this is why you see that religion makes me mad, because the very God posited in that religion is a God who instills fear. there's a heaven and a hell. If you don't do Y and X and Z, you're going to hell. But if you conform and you do this, this, and this, all these external laws that you are given, then guess what? You'll go to heaven. Your reward is coming. Now we are perpetuating that form of parenting on ingane, who are not even ingane, on these spirits that have reincarnated. It's not going to come right because that is not our innate and natural way of being. When we talk about the 42 laws of Ma'at, these are the laws of the universe that were used to create your physical body so that you can manifest from the spiritual into the physical. Therefore, what does it mean? It means that these 42 laws, these 42 principles are embedded in you. Have you aligned with your Ma'at? We're in the season of Ma'at right now. Have you? Because if you have not aligned with your Ma'at, how are you going to assist this spirit to align with his or hers? I think I've posted the 42 laws of Ma'at. By the way, the 10 commandments were pulled from the 42 laws of Ma'at. But they were pulled strategically. They pulled the ones that they needed in order to do what? To control. Worse still, the 42 laws of Ma'at are written in I statements. They are not given as you shall not, thou shalt not. No. They are given as I shall not. So I have what are called the 42 ideals of Ma'at. The laws are the do not statements, like I do not dishonor my neighbor, right? It's an I statement, but it's a negative. The positive, which are the ideals, are I honor my neighbor, right? So I like the ideals of Ma'at personally because, hey, I'm a rebellious spirit. And one of the things I could never, and I'm fortunate, although there was some brutality involved, but they soon realized that trying to tell this one what to do, and then you are hitting and hitting, you'll end up killing, because I would never conform anyway. So you could beat me black, blue, I would still do whatever it is I wanted. That is the kind of soul or spirit I have, right? So it became clear that no, you see, beating this one, honestly, we're going to hurt her. Like they would have killed me. Many of you might have children like that. And you've probably caused them infinite pain because the more they rebel, the more they rebel. Meanwhile, nothing is changing. That's that spirit saying, no, I know my path. Listen to your children. Stop brutalizing them. So because of that, I like the ideals of Ma'at because the ideals are what we aspire to. So they go something like this. I have the list of the ideals and I will post maybe under, as a separate post, since we're in Ma'at, I will post the 42 laws and then I will post the ideals. For me, the ideals sound better. So I honor virtue. I benefit with gratitude. I am peaceful. I respect the property of others. I affirm all life that is sacred. I give offerings that are genuine. I live in truth. I regard all altars with respect. By all altars, meaning anyone's sacred anything is regarded with respect. Meaning I respect other people's ideas and views, right? I speak with sincerity. I consume only my fair share. I offer words of good intent, meaning I'm not malicious. I don't go out of my way to open my mouth with the intention of hurting or destroying. I relate in peace. Meaning, even in situations that are conflict-ridden, be it with my partner, be it with my family, I'm conscious that as I engage from a place of peace, not in order to wage war. Right? I honor animals with reverence. And I want to speak about this because I've seen a lot of this and it breaks my heart. If you want to see wounded spirits, watch how children treat animals. That will tell you everything. I've been in situations where I'm walking along the street somewhere and there's a stray dog or a stray cat and there's a group of children and they are literally torturing this animal. This animal is trying to run away. They bring it back and they are peltering it with stones. They are poking it with sticks, sometimes until it dies. Or a cat, or especially a kitten. Big cats can run away. The way they treat birds. When they catch a baby bird, maybe that fell out of the nest, watch how they treat animals, and that'll show you the state of woundedness of these kids. The most natural instinct of children who are not harmed is to protect, is to go, oh, cute, is to take care of, to try to heal this baby bird, not to be pulling it limb by limb while it is awake. Those are serious signs of deep trauma and dissociation from who they are. So when you brutalize your children and they have no other outlet, number one, they will torture animals. Number two, they will torture other children they perceive as weaker than themselves. Many of your bullies are born from trauma that they cannot heal from. They themselves are brutalized at home. When they go to school and they perceive a weaker child, that rage, that resentment, that anger is let out on another child. So please, that's why I can't stand bullies, but I'm also compassionate because usually if you speak to kids who bully other kids, you will find out that they themselves are really hurt. Right? So that's that one. I honor animals with reverence. I can be trusted. I care for the earth. I keep my own counsel. Do you know what that means? I listen to my own innate wisdom. How are you going to listen to your own innate wisdom when you don't even take time to connect with self? How is your child supposed to connect with their own inner wisdom when you are constantly projecting your own issues on them and creating a lot of noise and a lot of confusion in them, moving them further and further away from their life path? I speak positively of others. What comes out of your mouth when you see someone doing something good? What comes out of your mouth? Are you congratulating? Or are you gossiping? Somebody gets a promotion. What comes out of your mouth? Is it, oh, wow, congratulations, I'm so proud of you? Or you're talking to someone, so-and-so did this, did you see how amazing that was? Or are you saying, 3 promotions in 1 year, she's using bottom power? Kuzeni. So you keep your own counsel. You speak positively of others. You remain in balance with your emotions. How can you remain in balance with your emotions when you don't even sit and understand yourself to know what your emotions around certain things are. How then can you raise a child who's able to regulate themselves? Because part of raising your child is to demonstrate for them how they have a mechanism that is internal to them where they can regulate their emotions. So if you're flying off the handle, when you're in a temper, all sorts of harmful words, which by the way, you can never take back once you've said them, are flying out of your mouth. You are demonstrating to this soul that that is how we do things. So they learn by observing you. And some of these kids observe you and they don't want to become you, but you brutalize them into conformity. I am trustful in my relationship. I'm also trustworthy in my relationships. Are you trustworthy in your relationships? Because it's about balance and reciprocity. If you expect trust from your partner or your family members or whoever, you expect trust and loyalty. Are you trustworthy and loyal? I hold purity in high esteem. Many of us as parents have made some horrible mistakes. And one of the things that tends to happen with your teenagers, especially those who are single parents, single moms, is that your teens, when you are then preaching to them, because that's what it is, when you are preaching to them about how not to be around men so you don't get pregnant, you don't reference yourself as an example of what could go wrong. They would respect you more if you could yehlisa your ego and have a conversation where you tell them that, you know, I made a lot of mistakes. Not that you are a mistake, because you are the gift that came into my life to teach me. But the mistake I made was to do X, Y, Z at a young age. I didn't listen to my mom. I didn't listen to my aunties. And this is where it got me. I don't want you to walk that same difficult path when you can learn from me, your mom. You've seen me struggle. You've seen me trying to make ends meet. I don't want that for you. And that is not why you are incarnated, to reenact my mistakes. That is a circuit breaker right there, because suddenly you're talking to your child in a manner that they've never heard you talk to them. Suddenly you're taking accountability for the mistakes you have made. You don't lose anything as a parent by owning up to your mistakes to your children. If anything, in their eyes, you go from here to here. Because now they don't have to have conversations in their head in response to you. When you say, hey, don't do this, and they're busy going, you're telling me not to do this. You did the exact same thing. Angisho nawe wadla ubusha bakho. So nami ngizodla ubusha bami. You can break that circuit by just yehlisering your ego, and having a conversation where you are literally talking to this spirit, so that that spirit is not derailed from its path the way you were. It helps because now they listen to hear you. They don't listen to either respond back at you or listen to dismiss you. They respond to hear. That spirit, that soul is who hears you, not this physical. That is how you guide your children. So it's not to say we don't make mistakes or haven't made mistakes, but it's taking accountability even to your children. Because if you remember, your children are ancestors. Case closed. Coming clean about certain things to your children will assist them on their path. I create harmony. I am open to love in various forms. I am forgiving. Now, that's a big one. Because many of us have unforgiveness in our hearts. We even have unforgiveness towards our children. I'm hearing that there's some of you who have not forgiven yourselves for the way your children came into this world. And because you have not resolved that issue with you, your children become constant reminders of the mistakes that you've made. And the result is that you cannot love them fully. The result is you resent your children. Think about it. This is coming through very clearly. I don't know, it could be one person, it could be someone who elsewhere, but that's what I'm hearing very clearly. That needs resolution. Because if you have such resentment to your child and against all odds your child becomes successful, you won't even have the ability to be happy for them. You won't. Do you know that there are parents who are jealous of their children? The spirits that you brought into this world become successful, are living their life, and you are jealous. It's because of your own unresolved issues about how these children came into the world to begin with. You blame these children for you not having finished school. You blame these children for you not having been able to go to work or to fulfill whatever career you had. You wanted to be a singer, but then you got pregnant and there it was. That was the end of that. Don't blame the child. That is squarely on you. So if you don't deal with that, you will project outward and blame the wrong person. I respect others, and others includes your children. I am accepting of difference in others. I follow my inner guidance. I converse with awareness. I do good. I give blessings, not curses. How many are cursing their children? Sizobona ukuthi uzophelela phi wena? Wena? Sizobona. That's a curse. It's a curse. Because it comes not from a good place, but it comes from a place where you're literally speaking negativity over your own child's life because they're doing a particular thing. Words are very powerful. That's why it says you converse with awareness. You give blessings, not curses. There are more of them, but I think you get the idea. I will post them up. I'm actually doing a teaching on YouTube about these laws. Maybe later on today, the video will go up, where we are looking at how do you use these laws during this month of August, right? Yesterday was a full moon. We have another, and it's a super moon in Venus. And I wrote out certain things you need to do. And then come the 30th of August, we have another full moon. So this August is an amazing month to do some deep inner work and resolve some issues that you personally have as a person. Unomkhubulwane is with us in her full glory twice in 1 month. That's amazing. So in between that time, you can do a lot of inner work. And I've given you some ideas of how it is you can do this so that come the 30th, we can do a huge releasing ritual. Why? Because September 23 is the African New Year. And you don't want to start your new year with a whole lot of baggage from the previous year or from previous years. This is a great opportunity to do some deep work. So on my teaching on YouTube, I will talk about practical things you can do to align yourself with Ma'at. Because when you live within those principles, they are written out now because we've forgotten who they are. But as you read them, I mean, these are not rocket science, right? Nobody here is telling you your higher self is when it says, I am peaceful. Your higher self is saying you're peaceful. So there are ways you can use these to realign with Ma'at and get back into balance. Because the season of Ma'at is all about balance, harmony, justice, truth. Those are the major tenets of this season. And we have guidance as to how you can be in Ma'at. A regular practice of what I will show you will ensure that all your life, you are always striving to be in harmony, to be in balance. And when you are in harmony and in balance within yourself, then you are in harmony and balance with the cosmos. When you are at the frequency of the cosmos is when magic in your life happens. It's when things flow and happen easier. There are a lot of you like, things are just hard. I feel like I start, stop. I do this one, things open up and then they close again. It's because you're not vibrating at a constant frequency where there is harmony between you and the cosmos. So I really hope that this has helped. If it has helped, let me know in the comments. I'd really appreciate. But there's one thing too that comes to mind. Conscious parenting is not overcompensating. Many of us who grew up in homes that didn't have a lot of love, that didn't have a lot of material possessions, that just, they were scarce. Things were not there. You may be the person who is now in a place where you can provide for your children better than your parents did. And that's great. That is what we call progress. Progress is taking up from where our parents left off and improving on it. That is legacy and that is progress. So if you're doing that, kudos. However, caveat when it comes to your children, giving them everything material that they want is not conscious parenting. It is overcompensating. This idea that you grew up without an abundance of material things, now you can do for your children. Anything they ask, they get. Money, they get. You're not teaching your children anything, and that is not conscious parenting. You're teaching your children to be entitled adults, because at the end of the day, you're raising your children to become competent adults that have something positive to contribute to society. So if you are overcompensating and doing too much, you suffocate the elevation of that soul because it gets stuck at the root chakra, which is where all material things are, stuck in this 3D. Sorry about that, guys. Can you still hear me? Let me know. Sometimes the volume goes if there's a phone call coming in. So conscious parenting is becoming aware that you don't overcompensate. And Conscious parenting is not about making your children happy all the time. I want my children to be laughing and happy. Your child cries, ufunani nana, ufunani, funi ice cream, ufunani, hamba sathengi toys. Conscious parenting is not about overcompensating. So what you do is you as a parent exercise wisdom. You are to provide for the basic needs of your children. It's your responsibility, they're your children. However, teach your children the value of certain things. Make them work for it. Make them work for it. Mommy, please, I have that here all the time. Mommy, please, can I have this? You can earn the money for it if you want. Oh, I can? What do you want me to do? Okay, pack those products and then take them to the post office. It's usually my older one because she's always wanting something. But she works for it. They do chores around this house. I don't do anything anymore in this house when it comes to cleaning. I'm telling you, I do my laundry and make my bed. The rest they do because they earn. So I don't give pocket money as a by the by. No, my children earn their pocket money. Do they have everything they need? Absolutely. They have everything they need. They have everything they need, not everything they want. If you want something above the things you need, you earn it. You work for it. Right? Someone saying they can't hear me. Can anyone else hear me? No, other people can hear me. That's perfect. So Angazi Jabu is on your end. Make them earn it. Want to make extra cash because you want to buy, I don't know, whatever it is these kids want. They're always wanting something. Okay, go and rake leaves outside and go and do some weeding in the garden. Well, you want it? Work for it. You're teaching them discipline. You're teaching them values because guess what? That money that they earn because they worked for it, you find most times to spend it on useless things. They know how hard they worked for it. So, yeah, maybe it's better to just save it. I'll put it in my account and let it sit. So you're teaching them values. You're teaching them not to be impulsive spenders. You're teaching them that if there's something, sometimes they want something really expensive, save up for it. No, mommy, can you get it for me? That, and then I will be repaying you in chores. That never works because they're smart. After a while, I forget that they're supposed to be paying me back for something. So what I say is no. So you're teaching them that there is value not only in working for something, but there is value also in not getting things as you want them instantaneously. Because these people are microwave generation. Everything must happen today, if not yesterday. So you teach them to slow down. By the time she's worked and saved, I don't know, $600 for whatever she wanted, she no longer wants that thing. So you just saved your child from impulsive spending by giving them a moment to really reflect, do I really want this? You're teaching them the value of work, honest work. You're teaching them ethics, right? You're teaching them, because look, when you are gone, they have to make it in life somehow. That's why how you treat them, how you raise them is so important, because you're not raising them for the now. Siyabakhulisa, right? We are raising them so that they become fully functional adults who are in touch with their purpose here on earth. Many teenagers are depressed because that is where they're stuck. Why am I here? What is the meaning of life? And they're not finding a soft landing in the home. Because in the home, kune stress, kuyaraswa, nobody cares about what they feel or think. So they get depressed and they go in on themselves. And that's where the S word starts coming around. I'm not going to say it here because we might get blocked, but you know the S word, right? And some, sadly, follow through. Because there's some souls who come into this world already tired because they're old souls. And so now when you are stressing them and they're trying to figure out who they are, they hit a brick wall. They hit that wall where it's like they're in so much torment and pain, they want to check out. All they're really looking for is the pain and the anguish and the anxiety to end. They don't want to check out. I mean, they came in to do something. They don't want to check out prematurely. But when they feel like they've reached a dead end and there's no way out and it's so torturous, they check out. And that creates a whole nother problem and issue altogether for that spirit and for you as the steward of that spirit. So on that note, I'd like to say thank you so much for being here, guys. Thank you. You don't see me around here a lot, but it's just a lot going on. I'm really, really hectic. But I was pushed to do this one. So I hope you gained a lot from it. Please share it out to your friends. Sit with it. Take one thing at a time and, spend some time just reflecting on it, rewatch, like I say. We are living in, I'd say, exciting times, but also very, very sobering times where we are having to reckon seriously as bakwaNtu in who we are, how we do things, how we show up in the world. So, on that note, I wish you guys a pleasant evening in South Africa or wherever else you are in the world. I wish you a pleasant day. Mas thokozeni. Thokozeni.